My name is Anthony Awtrey. I've been a CTO or Chief Technology Officer for 20 years. As CTO, I handle technical operations, lead research and development, and act as a company's technical advisor. My previous company developed a product and brought it to market under my direction. After we sold our business and successfully exited, I started again with H3T LLC. Now I provide my expertise as CTO to my clients. This talk outlines what I do when a new customer hires me to help them. If you ask multiple CTOs to describe their jobs, you'll get different answers. What I do can be divided into 5 general areas: budgets and planning, information technology, project management, cybersecurity, and vendor relationships. I work with the Chief Financial Officer to develop a budget and a plan for a technology infrastructure that supports business objectives. I also work with the Information Technology Department to prioritize projects and support tasks within the budget scope. I work to implement and validate the appropriate cybersecurity posture to meet contractual obligations and corporate risk tolerance. Finally, I work with external vendors and service providers to control cost and validate their performance. This is not an exhaustive list and often changes based on the needs of the client. The first step is to gather information from the client to determine the existing state of their infrastructure and documentation. After all, you can't plan where to go if you don't know where you are. I would like to see the previous and current IT budgets. The average company spends approximately 4% of its total revenue on IT, with technology-focused companies spending as much as 7%. Many companies also project IT expenses for future growth and may have future budget plans to review as well. A complete and accurate inventory of hardware and software assets is also critical. Even something as simple as a spreadsheet with items and their location or assigned employee can be sufficient for a small business. If the company depreciates its assets, knowing the schedule and the status of equipment is also beneficial. A master list of all employees along with their roles and departments should be maintained to facilitate identity, authentication, and access control. I would like to review the licenses, contracts, or service level agreements related to IT spending. For example, many internet service providers charge monthly fees for networking equipment that could be eliminated by replacing it with company-owned assets. Having all the relevant diagrams for the facility, the network wiring, system organization, and process flow is also helpful. Sometimes an image gives a better summary than words. I would also like to review the company's formal cybersecurity policy, procedures, or system security plan, SSP. If the company has a corporate information security officer, the responsibility for implementing and maintaining the SSP is often shared between the CISO and the CTO. Often a small company lacks some of these items, which puts them on my list as CTO to create and maintain. Once I have compiled the current documentation, I can audit the infrastructure and interview the staff to validate and verify its accuracy. One easy first step is to perform an automated network discovery to enumerate all the devices on the local area network. There are usually a handful of uncounted devices, such as a private printer or a lobby display. If there are dozens of phones or other miscellaneous devices, it may be necessary to segregate the network clients for security. After reviewing the policy and procedure documentation, I can verify that the active accounts match the master list. Everyone should be set to have the least privilege required to perform their work. I also verify that any other accounts used for services, such as backups, are appropriately locked down. Many software licenses are counted based on the number of devices or users in the company. I can use the documentation to validate that all licenses are accounted for. Sometimes devices and services charge based on their utilization or the number of accounts that are registered, which also must be evaluated. Any services retained by the company may contain service level agreements that should be regularly evaluated. Internet service providers, web hosting providers, or cloud computing architectures often have a required minimum service level that must be met, or some penalty may apply. Monitoring the availability of services can provide evidence of failure and result in reduced costs. One aspect of networking that is often overlooked is the wiring infrastructure. Ethernet is typically installed during the office build-out and is rarely changed. Having an accurate map of the network wiring and protecting access to the network is critical for cybersecurity. Auditing for modifications or failures should be performed periodically. Finally, any logs collected from servers, networks, or security information and event management systems, SIEMs, should be reviewed to ensure that they match the policy for detail and retention. This is another opportunity to note missing or inaccurate documentation that needs to be updated or recommendations for changes to improve the infrastructure. At any given time, employees are likely working on IT projects, addressing user issues, documenting the infrastructure, and planning for the future. Management sets corporate priorities and direction, and the CTO implements their vision. As CTO, I would want to review the system to track completed, ongoing, and planned projects. This could be as simple as a spreadsheet or list identifying the project's timeline and employees responsible. I recommend using the Kanban or signboard technique to represent tasks and status for ongoing projects. Companies also usually have trouble tracking or ticketing systems. This is a formal way for clients to report an issue, assign it to an employee to address, and communicate the status to the impacted individual. Again, it could be as simple as a spreadsheet or task list, but it is critical not to lose track of reported issues. I recommend a system that tracks the issues, reports the average time to resolve them, and allows easy escalation to make the critical problems more visible to the team and CTO. Another task that IT can handle is compiling a common knowledge base of problems, solutions, and memoranda to communicate processes to employees. Some technologies, such as multi-factor authentication, can be confusing, so providing a simple step-by-step process can reduce the burden on IT staff. When IT is overburdened with projects and issues, allocating resources to the most critical tasks is crucial. Management should have a written policy to document and inform IT of the company's priorities. The CTO should perform regular reviews to adjust the priority of tasks and to make more effective use of the time and resources. The only way to succeed is to set goals and measure progress. Management sets the goals, but the measure of success is how well the employees meet them. Polling the support staff and employees for any task, budget, or status issues is critical to success. This review process should highlight areas for improvement required to move the company toward its goals. After compiling all the documentation and reviewing the infrastructure, I need to develop a plan to implement improvements to ensure that business operations move toward management goals. 3 key questions need answering. Is your IT infrastructure an asset or an obstacle? Are you getting your money's worth? Is your data safe or at risk? The goals flow from management to business operations, so clearly defining business policy and plans is a good first step. Other goals come from contractual security, safety, or engineering standards obligations. Each goal must be integrated into a coherent strategy with which everyone agrees and accepts. As CTO, I must select technology, define procedures, write documentation to improve how IT helps employees meet their business goals. By clearly understanding what is already in place, I propose the steps to bring the business closer to its goals rapidly and on budget. After presenting my conclusions to management, several tasks are usually obvious if approved. I recommend formalizing any policy changes to guide improved procedures and implementation strategies. Current contracts requiring specific data protection, engineering, or reporting standards should be integrated into the process and procedures. Use automation effectively to improve consistency and reduce the time involved in manual processes. For example, automate computer installations to make it easy to load new computers or reset a compromised computer. Document any discrepancies in the inventory, licenses, and diagrams to match the implementation. And finally, document any missing processes, procedures, or plans. This concludes Part 1, Taking Control, in my CTO series. Watch out for Part 2, Controlling Change.